Alright guys, this is what we're working on today. This is our 56 Mark 25. There's the video where there's four you'll see four hoods in the beginning of the video. It's for a Mark 10 and a Mark 25. You'll see this, that I had this apart. I ran into a problem. I picked this thing up and I was checking it out, and it had you could hear like a noise, like, I don't want to say a clunk, but it was something to that effect anyway. And so I turned it over to basically to where the piston was at the end, and I can show you this later, but the piston came all the way, let's see, would be all the way up against the spark plug, and it started to come back. I took a small screwdriver, I put it through the spark plug hole, and pushed on the piston, and I could push it in and out. So it ended up being the bearings, the needle bearings that were on the crank. I marked them up. I forget exactly what it was, but say it was like 21 thousandths, and the new ones are 25. So I pulled, seeing as I have this apart, pistons are kind of scored up. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see in here, but pistons are scored up. It's a little bit scored up in here too. Hopefully this is gonna show up a little bit better, but kind of hard to see. Yeah, but so usually on something like this I might have somebody professionally do it, but everybody's busy and can't find anybody. And I've done it before. I just got this home running on my drill here, and these stones I believe are 220. The rings, it's getting hard to find parts for this. I would have probably changed some of the pistons and stuff, but I couldn't really find any. The rings are hard to find, but I did get some. There's 3 rings per piston. I just ended up buying 4. They were pretty expensive. There's not much of them left. Here's the one piston. I cleaned it up. See how badly scored this thing is. I mean, I think the other one was worse, but I cleaned it up. It was just the needle bearings that sit in here were worn bad. I was talking to a guy I know. He's been a mercury mechanic for 40 years. He said he never heard of it doing anything like that, but I put the new bearings in there, hooked it up on the crank, and checked it, and before you can move it back and forth, say, it's nice and snug now. So I'm gonna show you this other. I got a couple motors apart here that I've been putting off. This one's in the sun, so I think this one might be a little easier to tell. This one is a 1960 Merc 150 15 horse. Let's see, I know I got, here we go, that might show a little bit better. I honed this one earlier, and it didn't come out too bad. It'll be fine for what I'm doing. Hopefully you can see that in there okay. And then I washed it down. I washed it with soap and water. I used a little toothbrush, clean out everything. And this one's good to go. And then I sprayed the cylinders with some, actually I just sprayed some liquid wrench on there, but so that should hold that until I put this together. But I thought that one came out all right. Hopefully you can see where the lines cross over in there. I can see it you get it in the sun just right, you can see it. That might be it. There you go. That looks a little better. But so that should work. Like I say, I'm no I'm not a machinist, so if I can salvage this old, Mark 25, 20 horse, by honing it, throwing a couple rings in it, well, then I'll be thrilled. So what we'll do is I'll throw a little oil in the cylinders. He's got a piece of cardboard laying here. I know I shouldn't be using my fingers, so I should be wearing some gloves. I don't have any. So I'm just winging it here. But, oh yeah, I'll show you what I'm using for oil here too. Boy, I went to the local auto supply stores to try to get some, and nobody had any. I don't know, I guess nobody does their own honing anymore or whatever. I mean, if it wears out, we throw it out, you know. Try how it works today, I mean. But something like this, and you try to save it, get it out on the lake again, hopefully. There's that. I gotta find my rag, and I'll show you what I'm using. I actually had to order some, but I had enough for this. This is what I'm using here. I got this from Napa. Actually, my brother picked this up. Cutting and grinding oil. And then on the back it'll tell you you can mix it up. I guess with water. Well, I'm using it full strength. I had the guy run this part number up here this morning. I called him, and that number's been superseded, but I can still get it. So I had him order me some. So, I was looking it up. I think it was actually in a Mercury book. It said something like stroke-wise, going up and down 30 times for a minute. I've got a motor that was professionally done. That was actually bored, and they didn't have a honing machine that could hone these. These are actually a blind hole. I should have showed you on the other one. I even do it myself. I refer to this as being like the head, and it's not. It's just a water jacket cover. These things, the end of this cylinder is not open. It's closed, and the only opening in there is for your spark plug. So they call it a blind hole, and it's tough to find somebody that's got equipment to machine these. But I found a guy in Connecticut for a bigger motor, 22 horse 1960 Mark 200. That one was in pretty rough shape. Somebody evidently honed it, and they put new pistons in it. I don't think they put anything on the bearings. They ran the motor. They end up having a problem. When they put the sealer in here, it was leaking. And then when I got it, not knowing there was an issue with it, and I fired it up, the thing was knocking and was making a lot of noise. And I saw that the case was leaking. So I shut it down. I pulled it apart. It had wiped out one rod, wiped out the top of the crank where the rod bolts on. The needles weren't moving around in there, so it was all scarred up. And one of the pistons had gotten destroyed. The cylinders were scraped up, not super bad, but enough to where it decided, you know, I'm gonna find someone to bore the thing, and I'll put bigger pistons in it. So I was able to find all that. I have not put that motor together, and those are just things I got to get done. So anyway, so I was looking at that one because he was able to machine it with bore it with a machine, but he didn't have a way of honing it outside of just hand honing it. And this 80-year-old guy did it. Actually, he was a pretty cool guy, and he hand honed it, and it caught really nice. So I have it in the basement, and I honed that other block, and I was looking at it and trying to do it like 30 per minute, so to speak, and it didn't look right to me. And I was looking at the block that the guy did. It looked way better. His looked way better. So so I ended up doing was I did it again, and I went faster up and down, and now it looks very similar to what his came out to be. So I put some oil in the cylinder here, and now I'm going to put some on the stones. I'm going to squish these together. I'm going to set this down in here. Shoot. Well, it's better, but it's going to need more than that. Let's hit that again. Tighten this up a little, put a little more pressure on there. Oop. That looks a lot better. Yeah, it looks a lot better. There's a lot of scratches and stuff in there, but That looks like a lot better than the other one. Alright, let's try this one. There's a lot of scratches in there, but probably hit it one more time and we'll call it good. Back's killing me today. Alright, let's see here. Hopefully this looks a little better. Oh yeah. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Gonna have to be better. It's the pistons that are in this thing and everything like that. It's pretty rough. Let's see if I can. Is the sun still over there? Maybe I can bring this over there. It might show up better, but let's see. Grab my light. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get a look at this and see what it looks like. Actually, it looks like you can kind of see it there. Yeah. On this side. Looks like I maybe should have went maybe a little faster. I don't know. It's a learning process. It's a learning curve for me, guys. It's a lot cleaner. You know, it deglazed it, I guess you would say. It looks a lot better, so we'll see. I'm not gonna be able to tell what the compression is, what the difference is, because when I pulled this apart, I'll put this back over here. When I pulled this apart, I was curious. I didn't check the compression. I was curious to see what was loose in there. And let's see. Yeah. I was curious to see what was loose in there. And then when I got it apart, a couple of the rings were stuck because it looked like something let loose and went through the motor, is what it looked like to me. And side of the piston was scarred up. The rings were kind of stuck in there. Matter of fact, I broke one of them when I got it apart. I got it all cleaned up, and as best I could, the rings, using the old rings, they move around in there nicely now, so I think that'll be all right. But like I say, there's 6 rings, 3 per piston, and I only bought 4 new ones. They were like $16 a piece or something, and there wasn't that many left. I've actually seen a guy where he does I think it's like a 115, an older 115 6-cylinder inline 6, the skyscraper motors they call them. I think he honed it and everything, but I think he only did one. I believe it was one ring, one new ring. It was his own motor, so he did one ring on each piston and saved 2. But like I say, when I go to check the compression on this, I'll be honest with you, if we can hit 90, I'll be thrilled. But anything over that, I'll really be thrilled. I really don't know what it's gonna be, because like I say, I didn't check it. A couple of the rings were stuck. I'm sure it wasn't very good. I don't know that it would have run. And then when I saw how loose it was and wasn't sure what it was, I didn't want to go blowing the thing up. So I thought, well, let's take it apart, see what it is. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna clean this up, wash it up, make sure we get any of the crap out of there. I don't know if you notice any of this oil, but I mean, it's like black. Actually, there's some here, and it's all gray in there. This is what it looks like new. So I gotta wash this all out and clean it up real good, and then I'll put some oil on those cylinders so they don't rust. And you'll notice I left the exhaust plate on here because these screws and bolts, and depending on what you're messing with, tend to break, and I just didn't want to open that can of worms. So the other side, I'm going to pull the intake ports off so that once I slide this together, I can take a screwdriver and push on the rings and make sure that we didn't break any of the rings when we put it together. So let's leave it at that for a minute. Alright guys, we got our block is all honed, cleaned. I put some 2-stroke oil down in the cylinders. I'd already done this piston earlier. Yeah, actually, see, I got the one ring on this one. Was one old one, which I'm gonna put on the bottom. And here's, we got a piston. And I more or less cleaned this up, and one of the things I did was I had this one broken old ring, you know, so I cleaned out the grooves with that, cleaned it up as best I could, make sure any carbon and junk that was in there is out of there. Okay, and then don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but yeah, you can see that right there. There's a pin. Okay, and then there's gonna be two on this side, one on the top and one for the bottom ring. Okay, so the opening of the ring, and you'll see if I can get this to focus here. But anyway, the opening, you'll see this is kind of at an angle right here. When this comes together, it's going to go around that pin. Okay, so that way you got two rings that are this way. Your middle ring is going to be this way. Right, so that way it's sealed all the way around. And then I got some new bearings. I've had these for a while for this Mark 25. This is what it calls for, 29-246. I happen to have these. It calls for 25 of them, which to make things a little easier, I put in this bowl here, which I don't tip too far, but you can see them in there. Now I got them all counted out. I counted them twice just to make sure. And then I've heard guys say replace the stud and the nut. And I know on race motors, I used to oval track race cars, and you know, you would never reuse these. I do have some of these. These are getting hard to find, but I think they're gonna be fine. I see some guys that have been Mercury mechanics for a long time, and what they do recommend is changing the nut on them, probably because of the elastic in there, and that's the part number for what we're working on, 11-261. So I'll be taking a couple out of here. These fit the I've done a couple other motors. I got the 60 Merc 200 I'm working on. I already used them on that. I got a Merc 150 in 1960 I'm rebuilding, and it takes the same stud, nut, those bearings. So let's see here. Yeah. So the next trick's going to be to try to get this piston on here. What we're going to do, I already got this one done, except for I don't have the new nuts on this yet. I'm going to do that afterwards. And this block's all been cleaned up. So what I'm going to do is I got this piston down all the way. This is going to end up like that. And this is, you'll see this is our exhaust side right here. You'll see how much different the intake side is, which would be on this side. So it's going to go like this. Okay. You're also going to want to notice, let's see if this will come out on here. Should. Let me bring it back over here. And you're going to see, boy, let's see. I hope this will focus enough. Yeah, I see it there. You'll see this little bump right here on the rod. Okay. The cap has it also. Okay. And some of you guys might notice, but some guys might watch this and not know. So you can see it right here. So that way, this, you make sure this goes on correctly. Okay. So Alright, so basically this cap is going to go on this rod this way. Alright, our little dot is right here. It's going to face the top of the motor. It's going to be on the left. What I'm going to do is coat this up. And this is what I use. Check that. Yeah, that's good. So, from what I understand, and I'm no outboard engine rebuilder guy here or nothing, so, but this is what I use, and try to use a brand name. From what I understand, a good, brand name Vaseline. Don't use any generic stuff. And what I do, first is I'll coat this up in here. Then I'm also going to do this one. I'm going to keep a little bit on my fingers so that I can get it on the pins. And hopefully they'll kind of stick together here. And I'm going to just put as many on this cap as I can. I don't remember how many it was last time, but one at a time. It's kind of crazy because this one's a little more difficult. This usually wouldn't be a big deal when the crank out of the block, but this one, the way this motor's built, the crank has to be in the block to do this, so it's makes it a little bit fun. Where is our notch? Okay. Here, okay. All right, right there. Making sure they're all covered with some Vaseline here. Hopefully that'll help them stick together. Stay together, I should say. Now, gotta try to carefully turn this back a little. Bring this down. Bring it back a little. Bring it up. Okay. Now, we gotta kind of hold that there. Put some Vaseline on our crank here. On our bearings. One by one. I'm gonna set the balance of these in here. More. second, guys. I got them in there. I just got to get the thing to get up close. Alright, guys. So I got the little bugger on there. And I got it. You can see I got the rod closed up. I gotta change these nuts. These are the original ones. We're gonna put our new ones on there now. And what I did was, you'll notice, I kind of forgot to tell you, but so what I did is I moved this crank over to one side, kind of dropped down that end cap with the studs on there, dropped it down slowly, turned it at an angle, but as little as I possibly can, so we don't lose any bearings out of there, even though the Vaseline's kind of holding it. I brought this crank back up to the top and then lifted up, pulled that bottom cap up on the crank, and I was holding it on the other side with my fingers on the other stud. And then what happened was, when I went to put the rod on there, I was like, alright, how did I do this last time? And it dawned on me, I stuck this Phillips under here, under the cap, and kind of used that to keep pressure up on the bottom of the crank. This would have been over this way more, would have been, you know, like straight up. And I used this Phillips to try to hold it there, and then my pointer finger on the other side to help hold it, and then slid the rod on there, and got it on the first try, because it took me about probably 3 tries when I did this other one. It's not fun. The other ones, when you got the crank out and then the crank goes into the block this way, you know, you just drop it right down. Those are much easier, which I have one of those to do. I don't know if I'll do a video on it. I probably should, but so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get the new nuts on here. I did take my drop light, I looked down in here just in case. It seems to be fine. I looked down in here and I did not see any bearings down in there. You know, it doesn't appear any of them fell out. And, at some point I'll flip it over and make sure nothing drops out of there. But you know, I kind of gently wiggled this on the crank and it appeared to be fine. I think we're good. So what I'm gonna do is pause this for a few minutes, because I got to get my torque wrench ready, and according to my book, 180 inch-pounds on these rod bolts. So I got to torque both of these and get those ready to go. So I'm gonna do that. I don't know if you guys need to see that and see me do that, and you know, we don't want it to be a 2-hour video. But at least I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe you guys enjoy watching this stuff. I don't have a problem leaving the camera on, except for I had to sit down for a minute and kind of screw around with getting both of those, getting the rod tight up against the cap. So, all right, let me get that squared away real quick. All right, guys, I got my cheap little what's this, Pittsburgh little quarter-inch torque wrench. You know, one of them click type jobs. That I got this at Harbor Freight, and I didn't pay that much for it, so I don't really expect a real lot out of it, but I mean, it seems to work. And I guess really the trick is to remember, when you're done, back it back off so there's no pressure on it, and put it away that way. I already did this one. So what I did was, just gonna bring this up part way, get some tension on it. this side here. Try to keep them even. There it goes. Got it. Socket doesn't want to go all the way down on there, so it slipped. I thought I snapped it for a second. Okay, those are good. So it says click type, right, on the box, I believe. Yeah, click type. It don't click. It doesn't necessarily click, but it does. And I'm not gonna be able to make it do it, but this will actually turn. All of a sudden it'll stop. The bar will, oh, there it is. I guess it does click. Huh. I didn't hear that. Let me try that. Yeah, okay. My hearing's not the greatest. Alright, so the problem before, the reason I took this thing apart is, like I was saying earlier, I could lift up on this piston, I could push this thing up and down. It just barely just a little bit, very little. Before, I mean, I swear this thing, you were moving it up a quarter of an inch, up and down a quarter of an inch. Same with this one. And I thought the wrist pin was bad, but as it turned out, when I got it apart and I was wiggling around the piston and checking that out, I realized, oh, it's in here. There's the bearings and the on the rod here. I don't have the old ones with me. I think I said it earlier in the video, but if I didn't, I mic'd these up. I forget what the first number was, but basically, let's just say the old ones were 21 thousandths. The thickness, so the needle bearing was, the old ones were 21, and the new ones were, I believe it was 25, maybe 24. Anyway, pretty good difference. That'll give you an idea how much play was in this thing. And now it barely even moves. And they're both good. So next thing to do is to get to figure out which one I'm going to try to get a hole first. They have a tool, Mercury has a tool that if we just had the crank and the pistons, you guys have seen it, you can still find them. I think John McIntosh might have them. If you punch in John McIntosh, a whole bunch of stuff will come up, but if you put in like John McIntosh Mercury, you'll come to his website. He might have them. I know he's got them listed. Whether or not he ran out of them or not, I don't know. I keep saying I'm going to get some. That wouldn't do us any good on this one though. They wouldn't work because they'd have to come in from behind here and the block's in the way. So I think what I'll end up doing is I'm going to sink one down as far as it'll go, have the other one up, and how I've usually done it is I just hold the rings in one at a time with my fingers, try to keep it squeezed in on that pin I was showing you, and then slowly drop it down in there one at a time. Luckily on the block there's an opening on both sides so you can actually get your finger in there, which makes it nice. The only other thing, I thought about taking like a soup can or some type of can if I could find it without the ridges on the inside, and then a big radiator hose clamp and you know, so you could just slide the piston down in there and then take the hose clamp off. Oh, actually, yeah, because then you'd have to take the thing apart to get it off. But anyway, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. And on these, there is a gasket, which I have. I got the gasket. Normally, just put some sealer on here, and you probably could still get away with it. You probably wouldn't have to use a gasket, but I went ahead and got it. The other ones don't have one, so I just use a sealer on here. Just put some sealer on the block and seal it up and put it together. And I've done 2 or 3 now, I think. So far, so good. I haven't had any problems. They run fine. I just hate breaking them in because it takes forever. Putting around and then bringing the idle up a little bit. And I think maybe lay into it once on the first full tank. And that'd be nice if I had the grandkids were into it. I'd let them run around with the thing. But anyway, so let me see. I gotta get my gasket. I got the rings ready. They came in. So I got these here. This is what, I don't know about the other ones, but the this Mark 25, this is the rings it takes. And like I said, he's getting hard to find. Real hard to find. You know, I think they used to race these things a lot back in the day. Mark 20s and Mark 15s probably. And then what, you had like a 20H. And I don't know all the deal on that, but so like I say, they were like $16 a piece. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna get 4 of them, and yeah, and then I'll run one of the old ones on the bottom. I'll put these on the top. So, all right, let me see, get some stuff together here, guys, and all right, guys. Well, this is where I'm at. I got the gasket on there. Okay, so that part's all set. I got my oil in the cylinders. And this camera. There we go. I got the rings. I gotta fix this thing here. The rings are on there. They got some special tool. It'd be similar to like a piece of metal that would go around to hold the rings in place. And then it's like a handheld clamp. It's almost like a small oil filter wrench might work. But anyways, I've been fooling with this thing for the last, I don't even know, I bet a couple hours, trying different ways to try to hold these rings in and hold this thing up, you know, and get it in there. And it's getting late. It'll be getting dark before too long here, and I've had enough. Before I break a ring or get too aggravated with it, it's better to just call it here. Just do like a part 2 type thing or something. I'll figure out how I'm gonna get that on there. Get them in there. I'll come up with something. I kind of like this idea, but I think I'm gonna have to get a thinner piece of metal and something to something that'll mold to it a little bit better, because when you start loosening up this clamp to try to get this to slide back, the rings just seem to be out too far. And that'd be fine if, you know, if I could have them right at the base here, you know, where I could maybe get a screwdriver in here, something soft anyway, to try to help guide the ring in the hole there. That'd be great. And then once I get them in there, you'll see I got these side plates port up just for the intake ports. I took these off. You can see the holes in there. And I had those off so that once I get the pistons in there, just take like a small screwdriver, you know, and just lightly push on the rings, you know, through those ports, and make sure that they flex and move back and forth or whatever, so that way we know we didn't break one, you know. So I don't know, I'll have to figure something out here. I'll look in the book again. It showed the tool, but which would probably work. I think I can come up with something along this lines here with the clamp. I think I might be able to make this work. I might go to the hardware store tomorrow, see if I can get a piece of aluminum, something a little softer, oil it up real good, and then see how that works. So for now, this Mark 25 kind of sits like this, but at least it's honed. We got the pistons rods back on, the rings are on there. Just get this thing part together, and then we can move on to the next thing. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully before too long I'll have this thing back together. Take care.